Hey, wobble wobble wobble, this is Downtown Adrian J. I wanted to do a little review on some electrical test equipment. I had some really good electrical test equipment. I think it's important that you do have the right electrical test equipment when you want to test sockets, especially live sockets, and you want to try and trace things through, and it doesn't hurt. So I was looking around for some stuff online, and I was getting some reviews of the particular item I'm going to show you, and I found the reviews to be, well, half the reviews said exactly what I'm going to tell you, and the other half said they weren't any good. So I want to tell you that this product I've got is number one, and if you're a professional or even if you're just an amateur, just go ahead and buy it. It's absolutely great. Stay tuned, come back in a second, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This is a review. Now, funnily enough, the 4 pieces of item I'm going to review are by a company called Klein, K-L-E-I-N. Now, they haven't sponsored this in any way. They haven't given me any of these products, and I've paid for this out of my own pocket. So, I found, and this is going to maybe come across as being, maybe some people might not like it, but I'm going to tell you how. This is in my experience, every single contractor, electrical contractor I've ever found or had here in Canada have been jerk-offs. The reason why I got the first bit of kit was I was looking around for someone to do some work in my garage, and if you look at the electrical conduit that was run in my garage project, you'll see that they messed around. They didn't. The lines had been nice and straight. They were like kind of all over the place, and also I found that the live and the neutral were swapped around, which is not a good idea if you're on for switching purposes. Also, I had him back. Well, I actually had him back once, because what happened was one of the GFCIs kept blowing, so he came back and did that, and then I thought, okay, everything's fine. So I got the first bit of test kit, and then I found that that was wrong. So then I basically did it myself, and we had someone else come in to do some work to fit a power line, an extension power line, and they teed it into the lights. Now, if you know what you're talking about and you can understand this, here in Canada you have usually your appliances, electrical appliances, are on 20 amp circuits, and your lights are on 15, because your lights generally aren't going to be that much, but your electrics, you're going to have maybe a hoover, maybe a heater, and you don't want it to be on a 15 amp circuit if you've got something nearly running 13 amps and you've got only a couple amps of spares. That's why you have 20 amps. So what happens upstairs in our house, from a brand new build construction, what they did was they wired another set of electrics for 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. Instead of coming off a 20 amp spur, they ran it off a 15 amp spur. So now what happens, if I put a heater in my washroom and a heater in another washroom, they're taking 15 amps, and then they both trip the bloody circuit breaker. Whereas on the 20 amp, you have a bit more leeway. So that's the second thing. And then we've had a basement project, and the electricians, I wanted them to wire up some power points. So I needed 3 separate power points, one 20 amp, actually 2 20 amps on their own circuit breakers, and a 15 amp for DJ equipment. So they ended up wiring 2 of them to a 20 amp instead of 2 separate 20 amp, which means essentially they're paralleled. I went round and I checked the polarity. Everything is fine on the polarity for the sockets. And then when I used this piece of test kit, when I used this piece of test kit, because I wanted to then label up the fuses. And when we go downstairs, I'll show you the fuse boxes. It's difficult to see. You've got like the labels, and it will say 17A, 12A, 12B, and because it's stamped into the thing, it's difficult to see. So what I did was, I got some stickers and I put them on all the breakers, so you can easily see, oh, that's this one, this one, this one. So I specifically told them, when you wire up the basement, I want the lights on 1 circuit, or 2 circuits, it doesn't matter, but just specifically for lights. And the ring mains, you can put it on 2 or 3 different breakers. I want them on 20 amp breakers. Okay, I want them specifically separated from the house, so if anything happens in the house, it doesn't blow out anything at the bottom, and vice versa. So what did they do? they wired half the appliance sockets in the dance area with the lights. So if you then start overloading things and switching things on, you know, you might want to plug a Hoover in at the end of the night, and bam, you're going to blow that. It's not dangerous, but what happens is it's a pain, and I don't know why, in the name of God, why these arseholes here in Canada cannot follow simple instructions. And this is not just one electrical contractor. This is 3 electrical contractors I've had this experience with, and they just don't follow instructions, or they just can't be asked. So what I would always tell you is to check, double check and triple check. And even, as I said, with one of the things I had is I sat over, I don't have the time to sit over people. I wanted to just tell them, okay, this is it, get it done. And then if it's wrong, you do it again. It has to be done properly. But I don't have the time for that, okay? And I don't think you should need to, okay? We all make mistakes, that's fine. But on a redo, it should be done correctly, not screwed. So, and it's hard for an excuse when you're putting in a basement from new, when you've got the capability to run cables, you've got an open basement to run things, and you've got an open distribution board. So it beggars belief. So what I would say is, with any kind of work, unless you trust that person 100%, double check as best you can. Now, electricity, with gas you may get away with gas, but the thing with gas, at least you have a smell. If you can smell gas escaping, you know not to switch anything electrical on, get out, switch the gas off, whatever. With electricity, it's slightly different. You don't get a second chance, generally speaking. Now, I have had my fair share of shocks, once on the 240 volt system, and I haven't had it on the 110. Prove me wrong, I'll have to find some wood to touch. So you don't generally get a second chance with electricity. So check, check, check and double check. And if there's anything you need to do and you're really not sure, find a certified, even though here in Canada doesn't mean to mount up to squat, a certified electrician, or fully recommended from someone who's had work done before, okay? And then get them to do it, or even just stand over them. So that was a little bit long intro. I'm going to put a little thing at the beginning to say, if you want to miss the rant, skip to this part of the thing. Now, and in no particular order, we're testing the Klein tools. It's a digital circuit breaker finder, and it's the model ET3000, which is this chappy here. We've also got, and I'll explain what that does later, we've also got a circuit tester to check for mains power. We've got an adapter which goes with this piece of kit, which I'll show you later on. This is a tester for your electrical outlets. This is another little adapter which goes there. This didn't come with the Klein kit, and I thought I'd get a nice little toolbox, but you know, carrying case. I got this all from Home Depot, just to go show you I did actually pay for all this kind of stuff. So the multi to test, what you do is you plug this into any mains outlet, and then you've got 3 lights which basically come on, and it will tell you whether it's let me just put this down here so it's a bit easier for me to hold. It'll either, the lights will come on depending what's happened. So in the first example is open ground, that means there's no earth essentially. Open neutral, that means the neutral is not connected. Open hot, that means the circuit is basically dead. The hot and ground is reversed, which is a definite bad thing. And hot and neutral reversed, again, that's a bad thing. And if you don't know why, Google up. But again, this is really for people who kind of know what they're doing. And those 2 lights should be correct. But even as an amateur, you can test a circuit. So plug this in, and then it should show correct. If it shows anything else, it's not working, or it's not wired correctly. And if you want to test the GFCI, when you press it, it essentially blows the GFCI. So you can test that for a short. So GFCI is ground fault circuit indication. So in other words, if you have a sudden short to ground, in other words, if you accidentally cut it and it goes to ground, it will trip the breaker, so you won't, essentially, it will save you from getting a job. Essentially, that's what it is. So this is a really good piece of kit. It's fully insulated, just bang it in, and when we go to testing things, I'll show you how it works. Next thing, if you're ever going to be working on electrical circuits, is to have one of these. Now, when you switch it on, this glows a nice little green light, which is good as a torch actually. It's very bright. You can see in there, it's like a red LED. Now, when you put this into a socket, basically, it will tell you if there's mains going to the socket. It will also tell you if there's mains going to the cable associated with it, so you can actually test. So say for example you're playing around with breakers and you're trying to replace something, you can switch the breaker off and go physically to that part and see if it's actually switched it off or not. So this is actually quite good. This can probably save your life. Very it feels nice and solid. I've dropped this actually a couple of times and it's still working. Has a couple of AA batteries in there, easy to replace. And done. Now this is the Klein Tools circuit breaker finder. Now, and when we go downstairs, I'll show you. Essentially, a circuit breaker is similar to a fuse. In the UK, you have fuses and plugs, which you do have here as well. But what should actually happen is, and Q diagram, basically you have an electric circuit which goes from your mains distribution all through your cabling, and it comes off on different plug points. And each circuit breaker has a certain amperage, so 15, 20 or 20. So if you want to work on one of your circuits upstairs, what you used to have to do is plug a radio in, go downstairs and basically switch the breakers off until you found one. It has a transmitter. You plug this into the circuit you're trying to find, into the socket. You then switch this on, and when you go downstairs, you run it up and down the circuit breakers. You run it up and down the circuit breakers, and it will find it. And again, we'll test it, and I'll show you how that works. And you can then switch that circuit breaker off, and then work carefully on your stuff. What I would still do, even if after you've switched the circuit breaker off, go along to your circuit and then stick this in to make sure it is actually switched off. Again, this is mains powered. Sorry, this is powered by a battery in there. That's mains powered, so there's no batteries in there. Now, it does come with an accessory set you can buy, because obviously you may want to test lights. Okay, so what this does is you plug this into here, and you screw this into your light socket, and you can then trace which circuits the lights are on. Okay, so it's quite a good bit of kit. Now, there is only one reservation I would say about this, is this switch is very, 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 very trigger happy. Even if you switch it off, if you knock this, it will come on. But it does have a power off feature, so after about 4 minutes it will power off. So that's the only downside. And I've tested these before on my pieces of kit, and to be honest, I actually like this. This is a really good piece of kit. And you want to keep these all in a bag, and you're good to go. What I'm going to do is go down to my basement, and next you see me, and we're going to test all these things out and show you how this works. But yeah, it's pretty good, so don't go away. Okay guys, so back. So let's go through these one at a time. So the first thing I need to go through with you is the tester with the GFCI test. So really it's as simple as plugging it into a socket, and you can see this and this one is on, which means that it's correct. If you see here, okay, you can see it's off. Now I've checked all the sockets here, and none of them are incorrectly wired, so I can't actually show you that. What we're going to do is we're going to test this plug here, which is on a GFCI. It should power up. And to test it, we hit that button there. Bam, no power. Means it's tripped. Reset it. Put back on it. It's good to go. The other tester we're going to have a look at is this one. This is very useful as well, so let's power it on. And if you can see here, it's got like a little torchy torch. You see, I've got a lot of light in here, but it's got a little torchy torch. So when we put this into the live, you see, that shows that's live. That's the neutral, live or hot. And we can also test to see if something is hot. Can you see? And if we want to test, that one's hot. This, and I'm going to do it here, I'll show you in another part of the room. So we'll plug this in here. Shows automatically it's got power. But then switch this on. It's a one real pain about this thing. We'll get our piece of kit. We'll switch this on. Make a little bit of a bleep. This is powered on. You just run it down. And what it's doing, it's learning. Now, I know where it is, but let's see if this will find it. There we go. So, it's 32. Not 30, can you see, look. 30, can you see? Found it. Okay. Now, we've got some sockets here, which are switched off. So we're going to try and find out where they are. So let's get our trusty piece of kit. Okay, so we've put it into this socket here.
Switched it on. Now we're going to try and find the breaker for that. Let's find the breaker. So, again we'll
switch this off. Okay, so it should be this one, A9, okay? But let's get it to learn first. Okay, so let's go and find our breaker. There we go. A9. So that works. So that's not bad. That does what it's got to do. So now we're going to test this, because obviously there's going to be times when we want to check these bulbs. So let me try and get this set up and then we'll have another test. So is screw that into there. We'll now bang this into here. See, there's no power to it. So let's put power onto it. There we go. Now let's see if we can trace. Okay, should have learned this. Let's see. B6. So there we go. And B6 is this one here, and I haven't labelled it up, so now I can label these up. So I'm going to give a big thumbs up to the Klein tools that I have here. So the circuit breaker finder, the mains tester, the socket tester, and the tracer for the plugs. And as you see, you'll see some reviews saying that this isn't very sensitive or it causes false readings. I haven't been able to do that. I had one, as you can see, right by the panel, away from the panel, and on the lighting circuit. Now you can do up to 1,000 feet, but I really don't want to be running around that far. But as long as you follow the instructions, get it to learn the circuit board, distribution board, there shouldn't be an issue. And as you could see, there was no issues with safety to use, and it could help save your life and certainly save you from getting a shock. So I would say go out, get this kit, get the bag,
put it all in there, and then if you need to check anything, test any electricals while you're working, and you're good to go. So from yours truly, Big J, Jay saying peace out. Catch you same time on the Digital Guard. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Laters.